morning, viewers. This is Kasturi Day. Today I will continue with the last remaining questions of this chapter, that is atomic structure and chemical bonding. Okay. So to start with, I will request you to before I start, I will request you to please do subscribe my channel, and if you have not subscribed yet, and if you are a new viewer to my channel, please do subscribe and ring the notification bell so that when a new video is uploaded, it will notify you. Okay? And if you are liking the videos, please do press the like button, share with your friends so that they can also be benefited from these videos. And also do meditate before you start your day. So we will start with a meditation for 1 minute, and then we will start with a discussion. Okay. So let us concentrate on a point of light. Okay. That light is coming from the source, which is good. The whole body is being energized. We're becoming exhausted. Always within. And then we'll start with the discussion. The first question we'll start with is, what type of compounds are usually formed between metals and non-metals, and why? See, the compounds which are formed between a metal and a non-metal is an electrovalent compound. Why? Because metals, they donate electrons. They give away their extra electrons in the valence shell, okay, to form the octet. And non-metals, they take those electrons which are given by the metals, they take those electrons, they gain those electrons, okay, to form their octet. So in this transferring of electrons, here it is, one is losing electron, another is gaining electrons, and by this process, an electrovalent bond is formed. Okay, and therefore, the compound that is formed is an electrovalent compound. Okay, so see what it is written here. When metals combine with non-metals, electrovalent compounds are formed. When atoms of a metallic elements, which has 1, 2, or 3 of the valence electrons, will lose an electron or electrons to the atoms of the non-metals to form non-metallic elements which are having 5, 6, or 7 as their valence electrons. Okay, and thereby they form an electrovalent bond. Thus, the compound that is formed is known as electrovalent compound between the metals and the non-metals. Okay. Next question is, in the formation of the compound XY2, and XY2 and atom X gives 1 electron to each Y atom. Okay, see XY2, that means 2 Y atoms are there and 1 X atom. So X will give 1 electron to each Y atom. What is the nature of the bond in XY2? And draw the orbit structure of this compound XY2. So nature of the bond in XY2 is an ionic bond. Okay. Okay. And the orbit structure is like this. See, 1 electron it's giving to Y atom. It's the question that is given. That is 1 electron it's giving to each Y atom. So 2 Y atoms are there. So they are giving 1 each electron to this. That means X is having 2 electrons in its valence shell. Okay. And that means if it gives away these 2 electrons, that will form the octet of X. And that will, after giving away these 2 electrons, it will form a ion which is having 2 plus, 2 positive ion. Okay, so it will form a 2 positive sign ion, and Y, as it each Y atom is taking 1 electron, so that 1 electron will form the octet in case of each Y atom, giving a negative charge, single negative charge, as it is accepting only 1 electron. Okay, so that will be, there will be a single negative charge. So the orbital structure will be like this. See, 2x, the 2 valence electron will be there, and Y will have 7 electrons of its own valence electron, and it will accept the X electron. Okay, so it will this sign will be X2 plus and Y minus, like that. Okay, the orbital structure will be like this. Then an atom X has electronic configuration of 2, 8, and 7. It combines with Y, having 1 electron in its outermost shell. X has 2, 8, and 7. It combines with Y of 1 electron. It's having 1 electron in its outermost shell. Now, what type of bond will be formed between X and Y, and write the formula of the compound formed? Now, X has 7 electrons. Okay? X has 7 electrons on its outermost shell, and Y has only 1 electron on its outermost shell. So Y loses 1 electron and X gains one the electron, 1 electron. So that will form an ionic bond. Okay, because one is gaining, another is losing. So therefore, it will form an ionic bond. Okay, and the formula will not be XY, but it will be YX. Okay, because Y is giving away the electron and X is accepting the electron, so it will be YX, not XY. Okay. Now draw the orbit structure of sodium chloride, calcium oxide. Atomic number of sodium is 11, calcium 20, chlorine 17, and oxygen 8. So the orbital structure electron dot diagram will be like this. Sodium will have only 1 electron on its valence shell. That means 11, if it is atomic number is, then it will be, the electronic configuration will be like this, 2, 8, and 1. So 1 will be its valence electron. And chlorine has 17 as a atomic number. So it's the electronic configuration will be 2, 8, and 7. So 7 as the valence electron. So sodium will give away its valence electron, and chlorine will, to form the octet, and chlorine will accept that valence electron from sodium to complete its octet. Okay, so it will give away, sodium will give away only 1 valence electron, and chlorine will accept only 1 valence electron. So both will have single charge. Sodium, as it is giving away its electrons, so it will form a positive charge, single positive charge, and chlorine, as it is gaining 1 valence electron, so it will have a negative, single negative charge. Okay, so this with the bond will be like this. Ionic bond will be like this. Okay, the orbital structure will be like this. Next is calcium oxide. As calcium has 2 valence electrons, atomic number is 20, so that means electronic configuration will be 2, 8, 8, and 2. So it will have 2 valence electrons, and oxygen has a atomic number is 8. That means 2 and 6 will be its electronic configuration. That means it is deficient of 2 valence electrons to complete its octet. Okay. So therefore, it will accept the 2 electrons from calcium, and calcium will give away its 2 electrons. Okay. So after giving the calcium, after giving the electron, 2 electrons to oxygen, it will gain 2 positive charge. And oxygen, as it is gaining 2 electrons, so it will have 2 negative charges. Okay. So the electron diagram will be, orbital diagram will be like this. Okay. Now next is compare sodium atom and sodium ion, chlorine atom and chloride ion with respect to atomic structure and electrical state. Okay. First is sodium atom and sodium ion. Okay. So sodium atom, there are 11 protons and 11 electrons. That is an equal number of protons and electrons in case of sodium atom. Okay. Now we come to sodium ion. There are 11 protons, but it has lost one electron. So it will have 10 electrons forming a positive sodium ion. Okay. So lesser number of electrons will be there when it is forming an ion. Then sodium atom, it is electrically neutral because the number of positive charge is equal to the number of negative charge. 11 protons and 11 electrons are there. So positive charge equals to negative charge. So therefore it will be neutral. But sodium ion is partially positive charge because it is having 11 protons and 10 electrons. So for protons, we know it is positive charge, and electrons, we know it has negative charge. So 11 protons means it should be 11 electrons to nullify the charge, that is neutral, to make it neutral. But it is having, the sodium ion is having 10 electrons. So one positive charge extra, and therefore sodium ion is positively charged. Next we come to chlorine atom and chloride ion. So chlorine atom, there are 17 protons and 17 electrons. So it's electrically neutral. Okay. So chlorine atom is having 17 protons and 17 electrons. So it's electrically neutral. But in case of chloride ion, it has 17 protons and 18 electrons because it's gaining one electron to form it forming its octet. So for forming its octet, it will gain one electron to form a negatively charged ion. Why? Because it's gaining electrons. Then we come to the next question. The electronic configuration of fluoride ion is the same as that of neon atom. What is the difference between the two? Fluoride ion is a negatively charged ion with 9 protons and 10 electrons. Why it's negatively charged? Because it's having 1 electron extra than the number of protons. So therefore 9 protons and 10 electrons, therefore it has a negative charge, single negative charge. Okay, and neon atom is electrically neutral because it has 10 protons and 10 neutrons. Okay, that's why it's electrically neutral. Then what do you understand by redox reaction? Explain oxidation and reduction in terms of loss or gain of electrons. Redox reaction means what? A reaction in which both oxidation and reduction occur simultaneously. Okay? Both oxidation and reduction is occurring in simultaneous manner. So that type of reaction will be oxidation reduction reaction, or you can say redox reaction. Now, redox reaction involves transfer of electrons between the two chemical species. Chemical atoms, there is transfer of electrons. Now, the reaction in which electron is gained, when electron is gained, then it is a reduction process. It's a reduction reaction. And when electron is lost, then it is an oxidation process. Okay? Now, the compound that loses its electron is said to be oxidized, and the atom which loses an electron, not it's a compound, but it's an atom which loses an electron is said to be oxidized. An atom which gains an electron, that is said to be reduced. Okay. Next question is potassium atomic number 19 and chlorine atomic number 17 forms a compound. Explain the formation of the compound, the basis of oxidation, oxidation, reduction, oxidizing agent, and reducing agent. So potassium undergoes oxidation as it loses electron and forms a cation. Okay. Why it's oxidation? Because it is losing its electron and it is forming a cation. By losing its electron, it's forming a cation. Now, chlorine undergoes reduction because it's gaining an electron, forming a chloride anion. Okay. The potassium acts as a reducing agent and gets oxidized. And chlorine acts as an oxidizing agent and gets reduced. Define covalent or molecular bond. Give an example of covalent bond formed by similar atoms and dissimilar atoms. The first part, define covalent or molecular bond. The bond which is formed between the two atoms by mutual sharing of electrons. Where there is mutual sharing of electrons, not transfer, but sharing of electrons, so as to complete its duplet or octet. Okay? And this forms covalent bonds, or you can say, yeah, it's a molecular bond. Okay? Now, give an example of covalent bond, which is formed by similar atoms and dissimilar atoms. Similar atoms, that is chlorine, chlorine. Okay? Two similar atoms forming a covalent bond. Then examples of covalent between two dissimilar atoms, it is hydrogen atom and chlorine atom. Dissimilar atoms, that is hydrogen chloride is formed. One atom of hydrogen combining with one atom of chlorine. The covalent bonds can be single, double, or triple covalent bonds. How many electrons are shared in each? Give an example of each type. Okay. Now, it can be single, double, or triple covalent bond. Now, a single covalent bond is formed by sharing one pair of electrons. When there is a sharing of only one pair of electrons, that's a single covalent bond. Like formation of hydrogen molecules. Then a double covalent bond is that where there is two pairs of electrons which has been shared. Okay, like formation of oxygen molecule. Then a triple bond is formed between triple covalent bond by sharing of three pairs of electrons, like in nitrogen, formation of nitrogen molecules, three pairs of electrons are shared. So show the number of bonds in ethene molecule and ethyl molecule. Ethene molecule has one double covalent bond and four single covalent bonds. So ethene molecule has one double covalent bond and four single covalent bonds. Double covalent bond is between carbon-carbon and this one single covalent bond between carbon and hydrogen. Now, ethyl molecule has one triple bond and two double bonds. Two single bonds, sorry. One triple bond and two single bonds. That is one triple bond between carbon-carbon and two single covalent bonds between carbon and hydrogen. Now, an element A has one electron with its first shell. In its first shell, it combines with element B having 7 electrons in the third cell. What type of bond is formed? The elements A with one electron in its first shell is hydrogen, and element B with 7 electrons in its third shell is chlorine. So a single covalent bond is formed between hydrogen and chlorine by sharing one pair of electrons. Then match the numbers, atomic numbers 4, 8, 10, 15, and 19 with each of the following. Elements which can form trivalent ion. It's 15. Why? It's because its electronic configuration is 2, 8, and 5. So that means it is deficient of 3 electrons. And therefore, it's forming a trivalent ion. That means it has a 3 valency is 3. Okay. Then an element with 4 shells. That's number 19. Atomic number 19, because 4 shells means the valence shell will be the 4th cell. Okay, So that means it is 19 and 19 value, the electronic configuration would be 2, 8, 8, and 1. So that will be 4 shells. Then element with 6 valence electrons. So that is 8, 2, and 6. And elements with which does not form ion. It's inert gas. That is 10, atomic number 10. Then if electrons are getting added to an element Y, and then is Y oxidized or reduced, what change will Y migrate to during the process of electrolysis? What charge will Y migrate to during the process of electrolysis? Okay. So if electrons are added to Y, then Y will get reduced because it will oxidize the element. Okay. Now, what charge will Y migrate to during the process of electrolysis? As Y is getting electrons, it will acquire a negative charge, okay, on it. During electrolysis, Y will migrate to a positive charge or to the anode. So what happens? As Y is being reduced, okay, why? Because it is gaining an electron. Getting added. Electrons are being added. So it's gaining electron, therefore it is reduced. As it is reduced, it will gain a negative charge on it. And during as it is having a negative charge, so during electrolysis, it will be attracted to a positive charge. That is towards the anode. Here, next question. Elements X, Y, and Z have atomic numbers 6, 9, and 12 respectively, which are forms an anion, forms a cation. State the type of bond between X and Y and give its molecular formula. Electronic configuration of X is 2 and 4. 6, that is 2 and 4. Then for electronic configuration of Y is 9, that means 2 and 7. Then 12, that means 2, 8, and 2. Third one, Z. Now the element, the next question is, which forms a cation? The element Y will form an anion, okay, because it will gain electron. But A, that is X, it will also share electrons. So there will be not an anion or cation, but this one C. Z, that is not C. The Z will donate the 2 electrons. So therefore, that is a cation. It will gain 1 electron to complete its octet and form the minus charge. Okay, so Y will gain 1 electron and therefore it will acquire a minus negative charge. That is 1 negative charge. Okay, because it will gain 1 electron to form the octet. Then next is the element 2 will form a cation. Element 2 will form a cation, and as it will lose 2 electrons to form a +2 charge. Okay. Next is electronic configuration of Y is 2 and 7, and electron configuration of Z is 2, 8, and 2. The bond formed between Y and Z will be as Y is deficit of 1 electron and Z is donating 2 electrons. So Z will require 2 Y atoms to donate its 2 electrons. Okay, so that means the formula will be ZY2. So taking MgCl2 as an example of electrovalent bond, CCl4 as a covalent bond, give a difference between electrovalent and covalent bonds. Now, MgCl2 is electrovalent compound and CCl4 is a covalent compound. So therefore, their MgCl2 are hard crystalline solids which consist of ions. But CCl4 are gases and liquids, gases or liquids, and or they can be solids also. Some are solids, okay? Then MgCl2, they are having high melting point and boiling points, whereas in case of carbon tetrachloride, they have low melting and boiling points. Then MgCl2 conduct electricity in the fused or the aqueous state because it contains ions, whereas CCl4, they cannot conduct electricity in the solid, molten, or aqueous state because they have shared electrons, not formed ions. Okay. Now, these can conduct electricity. This MgCl2 ions can conduct electricity because they are in ionic form, and these one they cannot conduct electricity. Then they are soluble in inorganic solvents, but is insoluble in organic solvents. This is case of MgCl2. Okay, but CCl4, these are insoluble in water but dissolved in inorganic solvents. The difference, an element M burns an oxygen to form an ionic compound MO. Write the formula of the compound formed if this element is made to combine with chlorine and sulfur separately. The oxygen is in ionic form is an oxide O2 minus, oxide that is. So if element M forms a compound with oxygen, their formula will be MO. Okay. So the formula would be MO, and it means M is ionic form will have a formula. I will have a symbol of M2 plus. Okay. For reaction with chlorine, chlorine in the ionic form will be Cl minus. So therefore, one M atom requires 2 chlorine atoms to form the compound. To share it, to transfer its electrons from M to M2, this one, chlorine. Okay. So for reaction with sulfur, sulfur is an ionic form. It will have an ion as sulfur S2 minus. So as M is having 2 valency and chlorine is having, sulfur is having 2 valence electrons, and therefore, 2 valence, 2 is, it's requiring 2 electrons to complete its octet. So it will, the compound will be formed as MS. Same valence. Give orbital diagram of the following: magnesium chloride, nitrogen, methane, and hydrogen chloride. So magnesium chloride means magnesium will give away its 2 electrons from its valence shell to each chlorine atom. Okay. So that means magnesium will form 2 plus, and chlorine, each chlorine atom will form 1 negative atoms, 1 minus. Okay, so Coulomb force, the reaction will be like this. Now, nitrogen atom, it will share its 3 electrons from the valence shell with each atom, and it will form an N2 molecule. Okay. Then nitrogen molecule will be like this. Then methane, methane will form atoms by sharing its carbon, will share its 4 electrons with 4 hydrogen atoms, 1 with each, okay, and it will form a CC4, H4, okay, CH4 molecule. Then hydrogen chloride, hydrogen will share its 1 electron with chlorine, and it will form, it will form a hydrogen chloride molecule. Okay. Let's state the type of bonding in following molecules: water, calcium oxide, and hydrogen chloride. Water will have polar covalent bond, calcium oxide, ionic bond, and hydrogen chloride will be polar covalent bond. Okay. The metals M forms a chloride with the formula MCl2. What type of bond is in MCl2? Write the formula of the compound when M combines with sulfur, oxygen, and nitrogen. The bond formed between metal and non-metals is the ionic form. So if we consider M as the metal as it is given, and chloride is a non-metal, so the metal M combines with sulfur. That means The formula is MCl2. That means M will have valency 2. Therefore, when it's combined with sulfur, sulfur has a valency 2. So the formula will be MgS, or you can say MS. Okay. Then of M combined with oxygen, it will be MO. Then for M combined with nitrogen, it will be Mg3N2, because nitrogen has 3 valency and magnesium has 2 valency. So that means Mg3N2. I can say M3N2. Then explain the following. Mass of an atom is concentrated inside the nucleus of an atom. Atoms combine by transferring and sharing of electrons. An element has atoms with different mass numbers. Carbon-12 and carbon-14 both show similar chemical properties. So that means what? First question, mass of an atom is concentrated inside the nucleus because mass of an atom is formed by the mass of the protons and the mass of the neutrons, which is present in the nucleus. So both of them are present in the nucleus, and the mass of those two gives the mass of the atom. And therefore, as this the protons and neutrons, they remain in the nucleus at the center part of the atom. So for the center of the atom, the mass is concentrated there in the nucleus of the atom, and that is known as the nucleus of the atom. Okay. Next is atoms combined by transferring and sharing of electrons. Electrons which are present outside the nucleus are of negligible mass. Electrons which are present outside the nucleus, they will have negligible mass. Okay. The mass of an atom is conservative. Sorry, the second question is atoms combine with transferring and sharing of electrons. Yes, atoms combine as they have incomplete valence shell. Atoms generally, they have an incomplete valence shell, except the noble gases. All of them, they have incomplete valence shells, okay, to form their octet. So they need to either transfer electrons, that is gain or lose, or it can share its electrons to form a stable electronic configuration. Okay. Next is an element has atoms with different mass numbers. Now, the mass number of atom is contributed by the mass number of protons and the mass number of neutrons. Okay. Now, atoms of the same element, they have the same number of protons, where their atomic number becomes the same. Okay, but they differ in their mass numbers. Why? Because their number of neutrons differ. Okay, that's why their mass also differ. Then carbon-12 and carbon-14, they are the isotopes of carbon. They have the same atomic numbers, that is 6, and the same electronic configuration. Chemical properties are determined by the electronic configuration of an atom. So C12 and C14 show some same chemical properties. So what happens? Carbon-12 and carbon-14, they will have the same atomic numbers, that is 6. Okay, as the atomic numbers are same, their electronic configuration will be same, and therefore, as the chemical properties depend on the electronic configuration, therefore the chemical properties will also be same. Only they will differ with their mass number. That is, the number of neutrons differ. That's why their mass number is different. Okay. So choose the correct answer. The characteristics of an electrovalent compound is that they are formed by sharing of electrons. Electrovalent compounds, they are formed between metals and non-metals by transferring of electrons. Now, when a metal atom becomes an ion, then it will lose its electrons and it will become oxidized. Okay. By losing electrons, it will become oxidized. Now, identify the following reactions as either oxidation or a reduction. The first reaction, O plus 2E minus becomes O2E minus. So it will gain electron. If it gains electron, that means it will be a reduction process. Now, second is K minus E will give K plus. That means it is losing one electron. So as it is losing one electron, potassium is losing one electron, so it will be oxidation. Okay. Now the third is Fe3 plus and E minus, then Fe2 plus will be formed. Okay. So therefore, what happens? It will lose. I mean, it is gaining one electron. Sorry, it will, yes, it will gain one electron. As it is gaining one electron, there will be reduction. So iron 3 plus will gain one electron to form iron 2 plus. The Zn gives Zn2 plus and 2e minus. That means Zn will lose 2 electrons to form Zn2 plus. So therefore, it is an oxidation process. Now name the charged particles which attract one another to form an electrovalent compound. With the formation of electrovalent compound, electrons are transferred from one element to another. How are electrons involved in the formation of a covalent compound? So the first question, two more questions are there. So let us discuss the first question first. That is, name the charged particles which attract one another to form the electrovalent compound. The charged particles which attract one another to form an electrovalent compound are called ions. And those are in positive charge, they will be cations or positive ions, and those which have a negative charge, they are known as cations or sorry, they are known as negative charge, they will be known as anions, and yes, positive charge, cations, negative charge are known as anions, okay, or negative ions. Then next question is, in the formation of electrovalent compounds, electrons are transferred from one element to another. How are electrons involved in the formation of the covalent compound? So electrons are shared. In case of covalent compounds, there is sharing of electrons. So therefore, electrons will be shared between the atoms of the two or more elements. Next question, that is C. The electronic configuration of nitrogen is 2 and 5. How many electrons in the outer shell of nitrogen atom are not involved in the formation of the nitrogen? Okay. So the electronic configuration is 2 and 5. That means the valence electron will be 5. Yes, valence electrons will be 5. Therefore, it will require 3 electrons to form the octet. Okay. Therefore, what happens? Nitrogen's 3 electrons it will use in the bond formation, and 2 s electrons remains the same. Okay. So the first shell electron, that is 2 electrons, thus that will remain the same. So involving the bond formation, molecule formation, the 3 electrons will be required. So 2 electrons, that means 5 valence electrons are there. From that, 3 electrons will be shared and 2 electrons will be left. So that means 2 electrons will not be shared. Then in the formation of magnesium chloride by direct combination between magnesium and chlorine, name the substance that is oxidized and the substance that is reduced. Magnesium is oxidized and chlorine is reduced. Chloride is reduced because magnesium will lose electron and chlorine will gain electron. Next, in the formation of oxygen molecule, carbon tetrachloride molecules take the following electronic configuration. The nearest inert gas at N. How many electrons are shared and transferred in the bond formation? Which type of bond these compounds form, and draw their orbital structure. So first is oxygen molecule. It will have the neon gas combination, neon gas electronic configuration, okay? And 2 pairs of electrons are shared in formation of oxygen molecule. Okay, and as it is being shared, so they will form a covalent bond. Okay, In case of carbon tetrachloride, the molecule will attain a neon gas configuration, that is 2 and 8. 4 pairs of electrons have been shared and covalent bond is being formed. Okay. Now, what common features in electronic configuration is seen in argon and neon? In argon and neon, atoms have 8 electrons on their outermost shell. Therefore, they have a stable electronic configuration. This is the common feature between them. Then why Rutherford's model of atom was rejected, whereas the Bohr's model of an atom was accepted. Why? Because Rutherford's model was rejected because it failed to explain the stability of the atom. According to him, the atoms of his model will lose energy while revolving round the nucleus, and it will eventually lose its energy and spiral down into the nucleus, and thus it will collapse. But this does not happen. Okay, so but Bohr said, why Bohr's model was accepted? Because Bohr said could explain the stability of the nucleus, and he suggested that the nucleus is present at the center of the atom, and the electrons will move around the nucleus in the fixed orbits. Okay, and that's why this concept, his model, was accepted. Okay. Next is name the scientist who discovered electron, proton, neutron, and nucleus. So electron was discovered by J.J. Thomson, proton by Goldstone, neutron by James Chadwick, and nucleus by Ernest Rutherford. Give reasons why. Describe the scattering experiment conducted by Rutherford. Many particles passed undeflected. Some particles experienced a minor deflection, and very few particles are deflected to such an extent that they retraced their own path. An atom is electrically neutral. The first is many particles passed undeflected. Why? Because there are much empty spaces left inside the atom. That's why these particles, many alpha particles, can pass through undeflected. And second question is some particles experienced a minor deflection because there are certain positive charges also present inside the atom, inside the center part of the atom. So as the alpha particles are having a positive charge, so similar charge as they're experiencing, so they will deflect it by very small angles. Okay, then very few particles were deflected to such an extent that they retrace their original own path, because when they passed to the center, when they were trying to pass to the center contains the positive charge. Okay, and therefore the similar charges will cause the rays to retrace their own path, get deflected and retrace their own path. Okay. Now, atoms is electrically neutral because it will have the equal number, atoms has the equal number of protons and equal number of neutrons. Okay, so the protons have the positive charge and electrons will have negative charge, we know, because as the number of positive charge is equal to the number of negative charge, so therefore it is electrically neutral. Now we come to the fill in the blanks. Dash is the fundamental particle having mass equal to the hydrogen atom, that's proton. The mass number of electrons in any shell is given by the formula 2n squared. Hydrogen has 3 isotopes. Now we come to match the column. One side is the shell and second column is maximum electrons. So shells, K shell, L, M, and N shell. Whereas column 2 contains electrons 8, 32, 2, and 18. So first K shell will have 2 electrons, L shell will have 8 electrons, M shell will have 18 electrons, and last N shell will have 32 electrons. State whether the following statements are true or false. Atomic number is the total number of electrons present inside the nucleus of the atom. That's true. The protons are Negatively charged particles, no, they are positively charged particles. Mass of an atom is concentrated inside the nucleus of an atom, that's true. Helium has a complete octet, no, helium has two electrons on its outermost shell, so it's a duplet, not octet. The deuterium is a isotope of hydrogen, that's true. Then choose the correct option. The charged particles are called ions. Electron acceptors are known as oxidizing agents. Okay. And they reduce the substances. Okay. Then the electrons present in the outermost shells are known as valence shells. In electrons of 2311 in A, that is sodium, 11 represents the atomic number. The inert gas with a complete duplet only is helium. Okay, so this is the end of the chapter. Next, we'll come to physics chapter. Okay, so maybe it may be biology also. Let me see once and I'll tell you. So it may be physics or biology. Okay, so till then, please go through the whole chapter. Any doubt, please to write in the comment box. And if you can also write in my email ID, that is kasturi74, Kasturi, kasturi74 @gmail.com. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do subscribe and ring the notification bell, because that will notify you as as soon as a new video is uploaded. Okay. And if you are a new viewer to my channel, please do subscribe. And if you're liking the videos, press the like button, share with your friends so that they can also be benefited from these videos. And please do meditate before you start your day. Okay. So thank you for joining and have a good day.